better late than never, 'cause one is the loneliest number. One is the loneliest streamer, but I'm on the horizontal format and the vertical. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? I apologize for nothing. No, I apologize being late. Thought it was going to be an early stream. Thought it was going to be a stream yesterday, but apparently our hot water decided to just not work anymore. We have a tankless hot water heater, and the robot said no. The robot said eliminate humans, and it made us cold, and like it was gonna give us hypothermia and destroy the family, my wife and I. So it would have probably made us so uncomfortable that like cabin fever would sink in, and my wife and I would just be so just damp and cold and grumpy that the robots would win. So I had to get that fixed. So we did that. It turned out needed to be flushed, needed to have the coils or whatever it is that heats it, the heating element thing, flushed and like descaled, which is interesting because, you know, I was wondering, like, as an aquarist, when you have a hot water heater that's a tank, you want to run your hot water a little bit, like on full blast hot water, let that push anything that's at the bottom of the tank out, and then you know, run it half hot, half cool, wherever you find your, you know, happy medium. Or ideally you run it all cold, and then you don't have to run it through the hot water heater. And if it's like summer or spring, it might be like 60 degrees coming in, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you just let it warm up to room temp or to your daytime temp if it's, you know, summer, spring, fall, somewhere in like half the country. But not an option all places. And here we have 20 to 30 parts per million as our hardness. So you would think that like there's nothing in there to scale, to turn to scales. But, you know, I don't know. I never know with plumbing how much is like twisting your arm and trying to upsell you versus like as legitimately hosed. Get it, hosed? Hey, Johnny, man. Johnny, my man. What a gift. The gift of education, the gift of friendship, of community, and of money. What's going on, man? Good to see you. I don't know why I said Jeff. Johnny, but Johnny, thank you so much, my man. I really do appreciate it. 5 memberships gifted. That means so much when people gift memberships, because then new people get to come in, they get the alerts more often. It does help the channel seeing that people want to be members. It helps me keep the lights on, and sometimes people say like, yeah, I kind of dug that. And, you know, I've been meaning to do a members only stream, and so I've been deciding things about this 1,000K, or that, let me say that, 1,000K penny giveaway, which I could either do a 1,000K penny giveaway, or I could just call it the 1K giveaway. But that's not as impressive, right? So the idea is we have 100,000 subscribers in the 10 years. Seems pretty fitting, right? That this channel has been a glimmer in its father's eye. And that's me. It's not Father Fish. He may have had a glimmer in his eye for this channel at one point, but I don't think so anymore. And that's okay. I don't want to be. I'm not trying to be glimmering in any older gentleman's eyes. Anyways, no offense, Lou. It's, you know, but I hope you're doing well. So, anyways, so guys, how are we doing? I want to do that giveaway, like I said, and I have now on board, at least, you know, I have enough gifts worth that. The thing is, I want to be able to cover in cash, being able to give y'all overseas an opportunity to win too, so that I could give things to like Runimans or, Hamburg Aquarium, or Aquarium Glaser or Dennerle, like any of the big importers or nice places to sort, or Gennerle, where you can get stuff in Europe. I'd like to make that an option, or same with Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, wherever you may be, India. But if you have like a premier shop, if you're in Indonesia, if you're in Australia, there's limitations, and I could do an Amazon gift card. Like, that's easy to gift across international lines, but I did want to like share the spirit of like, here is a free fish for you. And I know everybody can use cash, obviously. But we'll have to see. There's a couple logistic things too that I want to have Ivan on really bad, Ivan Mikolji, with the Green Earth Alliance. Ivan and I doing our nonprofit thing, reintroducing the diamond tetra to Venezuela. We have literally 6,000 plus diamond tetras with their genetics from Lake Valencia's drainage basin, and we can't do anything right now because the government is worse than it was before. There's like, everything's up in the air. Everybody who has power in like the parks department, the military that controls the roadblocks to that part of like where you go up the mountain and the road is used, the oil, the armed guards that are protecting the oil pipelines that are closed off, that are capped off, but all of that is around the site that we're doing stuff with. And before, it was one guy under Maduro that we paid for him to have an MRI of his back. I don't know, this won't probably get anywhere, but we paid for him to have an MRI of his back because he was out of work and he was going to have to go leave the country and do this, that, and the other. And we paid for him to go to Colombia, just a short little plane flight. Basically, he got on a little bush plane, and then he got that done. He got it done for like, it was like $600 or something, and that then allowed them to have the information they needed to do like proper, like higher tech surgery than you can get it like there, because there in the US, in the West, in Asia, you can do a lot of high-tech surgery that's very, very, Middle East too, obviously, nice parts of India and Asia, obviously, too. But you can get orthoscopic, you can get really fine surgery, and other places they're going to cut you from like, side to side, and they're going to like spread it wide open, tear all the muscles, and healing rates are like way worse. So long story short, we basically bribed this guy by getting him medical care. And that was, the standard of care from like 1990, basically, getting him to an MRI, the closest MRI in the Amazon or Orinoco. And because of that, a 3-year process that didn't need to take 3 years. There wasn't like a review board. There wasn't anything. He just literally puts it in a file and waits for bribes. And that's just how their country was working. Literally, all of that got like, hey, you know what? We're going to let you skip this process. And, now we want the ichthyologist there to know that, like, if they have their own funds and you guys want to do your thing, you be our guests, no problem. But because of all that, I can't give money to like a government official in Venezuela. So it has to be like Ivan's own money. And then we have to do something like raise money by selling the rights to Ivan's videography stuff from his time in the Amazon, or me consulting for free and then donating that time or money to the cause. So there's been some like things for taxes and for just legal purposes when there's these blocks and embargoes and all the different legal terms that fall into place. It's really confusing, and like I'm still happy to be doing what we're doing. And I think Venezuela and places like Iran has cichlids. Did you know that? And it's because of the crazy logistics of like, you're never going to ship a cichlid out of Iran into the US or in somewhere else. You may get it into somewhere like Russia, and then like maybe if you really have your logistics down and a bunch of money or you're in the know. And then that might someday, you know, then get bred and passed on into European, maybe Eastern European hands or something like that. Not likely right now, but that's historically how these places become accessible with the incredible rare fish and things. But places like Myanmar, right now, you're not going to get fish out of Myanmar unless it's either Chinese or Thai border people just being like, that's not Myanmar. This is Thailand. This creek is in Thailand. It's 20 miles this way, still Thailand. And there might be some fibbing. There may be that going on a lot in Brazil, for instance. We were seeing Rio Xingu or Xingu River, like L46, beautiful zebra plecos. The little Hyphen sisters, beautiful zebra plecos. We were seeing them for sale, you know, at one point, like this is maybe 10 years ago, for when Brazil made it illegal to export them. They then started selling them for like $500-600, but they would usually be mid-sized to adult size, and they would show up in Colombia, and they would show up like either there or Venezuela, if depending on what other country they're going to, you know, if they're going to Turkey, like then it didn't matter or whatever, but whatever. So they would show up random places, and their stated origin would be like Peru. But you look on a map and it's like 700-800 kilometers to any tributary of the Xingu. And so it's kind of a crazy world about how fish move around, and it's not easy to illegally keep fish alive and have them in your boat or whatever. I mean, you can't just put them on like loop a thing through their gill and drag them behind your boat like you would with like game fish to keep them alive for a couple hours. You got to keep them nice and healthy and so on and so forth. Although, you know, there are a lot of cases where people will collect things like tetras and they'll just put them in a trash bag, and they will not care about oxygen. They'll just try to hope that they don't get too hot. They'll put them in like bilge water at the bottom of the boat where their feet are in like a dugout, and maybe a little bit of ice if they had access to something like that, or ice packs. And then they'll, you know, just zip through the water for a day or two or a night or two, put it in the cooler when they can or whatever, and they may pour out the dead fish every day, and it may be that 80% didn't make it, but still it's worth it to them for a penny of fish. But they weigh the fish down there in the kilos when it's schools of fish like silvertip tetra, black phantom tetra, stuff like that. You know, rummy nose tetras. A lot of times they actually will they'll pour the water out, they'll put all the fish together in this like brick fish, and it's sad to see because they're all like, you know, flipping around and scared and stressed, and I'm sure they're all catching any disease that any of the other ones have. And then they get put into a holding tank for a few days or a day. Then they get shipped usually from somewhere like Iquitos or Amazonia or Monolauno, or one of the like San Juan, or what, you know, just one of the, or Quitos, one of the various places in South America, depending on what we're talking about, whether we're talking about like Hillstream or, you know, Trinidad, if we're talking about little live bears, but one of these places. Then they usually all converge on European and American owned transshipping facility warehouses that are kind of like these open structure building pole barns that they come and they ship from there. All right, I'm on a tangent, but how are we doing, everybody? I see, did we get another super chat? What is going on? Oh, we got a new member. We got Johnny Best has re-upped his membership. This dude has been a member forever. He's like my bro. He's my ride or die on here. Really do appreciate it. Him, Kenny, you know, there's a number of you, Chevy Fish, you know, I know there's a whole bunch of you on here that are Ginger, and yeah, I know not all of you can always afford it or have priorities or whatever. So, you know, don't worry about that. It's just good to see y'all. Boots and cats, and you're in chat, and Boots and Cats. Yeah, hey, And then also I was gonna say what else was I gonna update? It's always Burma to me. Yeah, Myanmar. Depending on who you ask, some of the ethnic groups want to be called Myanmar, some want to be called Burma, some want to be called something else, like the Karen state, or you know, a lot of Americans will say the Karen state. No, it's the Karen state, and or the Karen state. And then there's the Wa and the Shan, and they're all right now. Like right now, I'm not going to get into like the details of politics, but I literally, since we last streamed, I'm laughing at this year. I said for our economic forecast for the year, I just can't tell you guys what's going to happen. I was like, we might get in a war with Iran. We might get in a war with Russia. Who knows? China might feel feisty if all that kicks off. And we may see something going on, you know, with them trying to take Taiwan. And then who knows? The Straits, if they close down again, I spent a bunch of time talking about the Straits. People are like, why are you talking about that? It's just the Houthis. We'll wipe them out. So, you know, a lot has changed. There's going to be some ripple effects. Obviously, car prices, gas prices, material prices. The fact that those interceptors, which are like a miracle, and I'm so glad they're saving so many lives around the world, but they're like anywhere from $1 million, $4 million, somewhere up to $30 million for the barrage that goes and intercepts like these drones and things. And in a lot of cases, it's like $100,000 to make the drone, or 400,000 to make the drone, and that's a lot of money to keep up with. So I don't know how long any of this is going to go on. I don't know what it's going to impact. I don't know, you know, whose visas, like who's trapped where. There's plenty of weird political situations also going on, and you say, well, Alex, don't get political, you're a fish channel. Well, hear me out. People like Heiko Blair, who used to travel the world, have passports. He had a passport that said he'd been to Israel. He'd had been to, you know, America, Israel, Canada, Europe, all over the place. And then he had another one, and India. Then he had another one that said he'd been to Pakistan, Iran. He was one of the few people to bring back cichlids from Iran. And you know, the Donna Khalil, places where like Boko Haram was active in Central Africa. But if you have that Israeli stamp passport and you're trying to go into Iran, if your own government even allows it or whatnot, one, you don't have backup. Two, not going to go so smoothly unless things are in line the way they should be according to them. Where are you going, honey? My wife's going to get gas because that's going up 10 or 20 cents a day for the last 5 days. Anyways, so yeah, what's wild though is, you know, a lot of these things that you would not expect. So things like Aquarium Co-op may be having a pallet of something, some raw ingredient waiting in Pakistan of like black soldier fly larvae, right? And they may be waiting on like that meal, which is just dried soldier flies. They may need that to mix in with their stuff, whether they make it here or they make it in China or wherever. Most of their stuff's made in like China, but it doesn't really matter. Like the world's so globally connected, you just never know when you're going to find out like, oh, the twiddly doodad doodly bobs that we need that are so important, the glue to hold a honey packet together. That glue is only made by one company, and right now none of their representatives can get through, and they've diverted all research and development on adhesives to something else at the moment. Like, so things are going to probably get a little weird on the edges, and I'd like to hear stories from you guys of like stuff that's very odd where you're like, what, how is that related to fish? Like for me, like skyscrapers in Seattle was one of the big ones where I was like, what the heck is like a bunch of skyscrapers in the city doing well when Amazon wanted to be here, and you know, Amazon.com wanted to be in Seattle. They were all about it. They had built like 40,000, then 60,000 office buildings downtown. They built these big spheres, which they called Bezos balls, that were like these cool Amazon rainforest style, like earth eater geophagus habitat kind of things with rare plants and fish and insects and butterflies and stuff. And that was super cool. You got to see some things changing. You got to see initiatives where they like back conservation, which was cool. And now there's a lot more of this, like, we don't know what's going to happen to tomorrow, so cut all that extra spending. We're not gonna we're not gonna back these frivolous things. And that's also gone on with whether it's the National Parks Department. Like I just saw today, they're actually having to take down any sign that talks about glaciers because the glaciers retracting is a divisive issue. The fact that glaciers are going away. And that's even if they don't mention climate change, just that they've been on the trend of going away. So like, let's go see them in the next 10 years because they're going to be gone. And on that same note, I just saw that Papua New Guinea, they don't know if the last glacier in the equatorial mountain range of mountain ranges, the only equatorial glacier left, it was down to like a few tons of ice last time somebody was up there, but they were talking about it, and Papua New Guinea is about 70% the size of Greenland. It's just distorted from the Mercator projection, okay? And imagine that full of along the equator, and there's a mountain range that is as large as the Rocky Mountains and bigger than like the Ural Mountains or the the Europe, the ones that separate Europe from Asia, right? Or Atlas even. And so it's really interesting, like the different cultures, the different animals. They found a woolly rat, they called it, in Papua New Guinea last year. Yeah, a 2-pound rat that's like yay big, like bigger than a possum, real big with its fluffiness, that just lives up in like 40-degree Fahrenheit, like just above like snow temperature weather. Sorry, I have an itch on the tip of my nose. Really, really wild. But we're still finding stuff, and that means like all the fish that are there are there's still so many to find. And so what is also crazy is we've got this thing going on right now where the US and China and Russia, and now kind of this conglomerate of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, I don't know who, it's changing, but essentially Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, and the UAE. So places like Abu Dhabi, places like Dubai, they want to kind of flex their ability to do something other than just be energy creators. And so they're doing ecotourism. They're trying to save their coral reefs, and they've been getting bleached. But some of the most hope for the American coral reefs in the Bahamas and in that Gulf of America is actually taking coral from that part of the world and introducing some of the genetic lines and things that help it resist the bleaching that goes on in extra warm water. Because the warmest water in the world, you got some of the Indian Ocean and some of like the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden and that whole area over there, and Strait of Hormuz on either side of it. And so that's another thing, though, is fuel prices, which a lot of places run their fuel. It's not, necessarily all sustainable. So then you've got people running things on generators. So if you heat your aquariums, prices are going to change. So guys, I'm not going to talk. That's it. I'm done. But I just want to warn you that, like, if you didn't notice already, the world is crazy. And yes, it will impact aquariums. Every time I say this, I lose a bunch of supporters. and they're generally on the right. And it's better that you know that I am interested in all these things. I consider myself not a centrist, but a independent slash libertarian who believes in human rights, interventionism during human rights, and facilitating trade. That doesn't matter for the channel at all. But in case you're like, oh, dang liberal, not at all. Like classic American liberalism. Sure, there's the like, yeah, I think you should be able to run naked down the road during a parade, and I think you should be able to marry who you want. But beyond all that, I don't think the government should be marrying people. I think it should be up to churches and up to couples and up to individual humans to say, this is how I am, this is how I'm affiliated. Ta-da. And if there are repercussions like tax-wise or whatever, then you just have to declare so that it's known. All right, I'm going way off on a tangent, so let me get back here. But it's good to see everybody in here. I see a Critter Style. I told my boss I'm going to see Fishery on. Yeah, thank you. And we got Johnny Be Good, Johnny Best, of course. And I appreciate all the membershipping, the shipping through members. Fish Dad, what's going on? Good to see you. Fish Family Link, good to see you. Even though you are a bot, you're not human, but I like you still, I guess. Sunny G, always good to see you. Let's see, let me get down. I just want to make sure I'm not missing stuff. Amy, what's going on? Motep B, 4D, Shahada, what is going on? Yeah, I've got some energy today. Mr. Monks, hello. Two male 181s that are in need of a female. Let's take a look at what we can do about that today. About that today. JP Jeffries, what's going on? Rachel, what's up? And then Tracy Ballard, what's going on? Good to see you. Nancy B in Tennessee. She's gonna do a song for me and a jig and a dance, and we're gonna sing and do everything. Let's see here. We all ran. Very cute, Sonny. I appreciate that. Okay. Quick glimpse. Fish can be affected by politics. Both their availability and their habitat can have severe impacts. Yes, 100%. And people like can't have a conversation about objectively like a tariff will cause the price to go up. Is that good? Is that bad? Will eventually it all work out and all the manufacturing comes back to the home country and it's stronger than ever? Or will it cause, nothing's ready for these tariffs and it just literally like undercut the domestic production, and the other people can take the hit and they're going to keep making it because they don't have to play by the same rules. And, I'm not here on this channel, like I don't usually try to debate the further out. I'm just saying like this means this is going to be 20% more. And we got the ruling, and I have friends with shops that have closed. Redfish Bluefish shop is still selling a few of their last fish online. Live Aquaria, the Europa Imports in Washington, and Eurofish also, for that matter, in Seattle. They're all just not going to make it. They have had to close. Another one up north too, up in Skagit County just closed too, and they're not going to make it. And part of it is they're used to spending X amount on fish coming in. Well, now, like from Vietnam, depending on where their people are, their sources are, if they do their own importing, it's gone up 30%. But more than that, it's the not knowing. So a lot of these tariffs and things have been collected and they don't know at what price. So they'll say, let's just say 40 to be safe. We'll refund you on credit in 6 months with whatever it shook out to. And then in other cases, there's actually nobody standing guard to collect the tariff money or to enforce various tax, tariff, and billing like policies that have even been put into place. There's no one out there right now who could look at a fish and tell you at customs. There's no more of the agents that are there for the endangered animal smuggling. They're not there. They're normal agents that are there that can probably see like ivory, and they've got like a crash training on whatever. But the people who were knowing like this bird comes out of this country, so all these flights we got to keep an eye on in New York City, LaGuardia, we got to know. You've probably seen some of those shows on like Animal Planet and stuff where they intersect all that. That those people are no longer like, they're not willing to pay specialist rates, and a lot of those people had to move on and you know, work a different job. And when there's no one there to say, is this a betta or a snakehead, then like, what's the incentive not to send them if you can get way more money once they get in? So there's some changes, there's some growing pains, and that happens whenever policy changes. You can be mad about it, you can be happy about it, but I wish people would accept reality. Like, look at what's going on. A is happening now. Objectively, like that is objectively A is happening, but subjectively, what will that lead to? That's the argument, or that's the why you can hate me and tell me to shut up. But when we know, you know, everybody in this reality is saying prices are going to go up this much, and I'm inflicting this much of a thing. The thing that makes it hard, though, is when somebody says, I'm going to do a 10% tariff, and then I'm going to take it back, and then I'm going to do it. So when it's off, on, the government's very slow. All governments around the world, pretty much for the last 300 years, have been designed to be slow, other than dictatorships and tyrannical, setups. And that's because they want it to be deliberate, thought out, and they want, the people to do that. So a lot of times it lags behind, and it's very delayed from what you would hope, you would know. Okay, guys. So moving on from all of that, everybody hit the like button. I'd appreciate that if you're still strutting with me. Let's see here. Also, I swear, ram's horn snails eat my eggs is not gonna be a good day. Yeah, I don't like it when snails eat my eggs. I don't like that, no, neither. Isopod agenda, right on. I'm still rocking that isopod agenda for sure. Jack Barlow, the orange man can't aquascape. So speaking of aquascaping, and also, by the way, Fish Dad, thank you so much. Hey, Alex, thank you for everything. Is it ethical to keep 1 or 2 cululoches in a heavily planted 5.5 shrimp tank? They eat leeches. So, yeah, they'll eat like young scuds. They'll eat leeches. They'll eat planaria, stuff like that. They eat at night. They're real good ambush predators. They hide with their little whiskers, especially if you got sand, or even better, silt or mulm, like very, very fine debris that turns into like a messy poof of a cloud when they move. A 5.5 gallon is kind of pushing it for some species. I wouldn't get the giant cululoches, which, by the way, I have something to show you guys, because Aquatic Arts is doing the BOGO giant cululoches, where it's like, I think it was $12 for 3, and now it's $12 for 6 giant cululoches. And you can get like 24 for like $20 or something crazy. We'll have to pop over there and take a look at what's going on between that. Also, Moonlight just got in a big order from China. It's not even all posted yet, and I'm hopefully going to get a ride up to see him tomorrow at Moonlight Aquatics. But again, Aquatic Arts and Moonlight Aquatics both have stuff, and also they do a phenomenal job on their own. But Imperial Tropicals, they have some beautiful cichlids, rainbows, big old plecos, you know, big monster fish, big fish for tanks that are like 240 gallons, stuff like that. They've got some really incredible stuff. They also have a lot of good live bears and like stuff that you can breed outdoors in Florida, because they have 140 ponds that are each like, you know, half an acre or something. Loretta Jackson, what's going on? Cave Wonders, what's going on? So with the coolies, you know, honestly, I would keep 3 or more coolies together always. They're very social. Now you can get some of the Pangeo genera. There are, I think, 13 or 14 common in the aquarium hobby that we see, and there are 4 or 5. There's like the Sheffield, and then there's the purple neon, and then there's the zipper one. The zipper one is very tiny, very small around, and only about 2.5 inches long. So some of those can you could probably have like 8 in a tank. The thing is, you need places for them to hide. So the whole length of their body, even though they do coil up, they hide around rocks, they hide around the roots of plants. They're going to dig. So you need some sand or silt or substrate, or you need a cave. Ideally, still, even in a cave, like a man-made cave, they want a substrate to hide under. But if you don't want them to hide, if you want to see them all the time, even in the day, which they're more nocturnal than anything, you're going to stress them out. They're not going to have as good a color. They're not going to be as fun and interesting when they do come out. They're going to kind of skirt around, sniffing around for food, and then they'll probably go back inside. Now, some people get lucky and they have just the right combo of other fish, and the coolie loaches feel like they're just at home, and they go up and down the glass, and they play tag, and they all dog pile on top of each other and kind of play like leapfrog, and it's really cute. But it's not always that. That's not the norm unless you have like a 20 long. And in that case, you can have like 10, and sometimes you'll see 1 or 2 for like months at a time. So as much as it means you're going to lose them, planted wood, rocks, and sandy substrate patches or along the edges or a cap, all those are going to make them really happy. I wouldn't say it's mean unless it's a giant coolie or one of the larger, like over 4 inches long, fully grown coolies, to put them in a 5.5. But they do need some good overturn in the water and good oxygen in the water to be happy, even though they can survive in flooded forests and stuff like that for the wet season, or for the dry season rather. They're just not going to be as colorful. They're not going to be as lively. They're not going to have as good of a life, in my opinion. They're not going to be as fishy as they could be. Let's see here. Delivery Thinker. Hey, bro, want to say I got into the aquarium hobby under your influence. It helped me with PTSD in my previous security-related job here in Brazil. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. I've spoken about it, and it always gets demonetized. Then the stream gets buried, and then nobody gets to hear about it. So I'm not going to go deep, but we could do like a subscribers or members only meetup for PTSD. I have had a life for one reason or another. I don't have time to get into it right now, but where I've had guns, held up to me. I've been tied up, beaten, abused in every way you can imagine from childhood on, by those I trust and by strangers. I guess it's luck of the draw. Maybe the world knows a victim when they see one. I don't know. Bad luck. But it has made me who I am today, and it has made me very reflective. It's also made me introspective and turn in, and that was really destructive for some years of my life. I don't know what to do with the energy. I don't know what to do with the anger and the sadness and that feeling like I'm alone, and like, what is it to even be human or connected to Earth? Like, let alone like me feeling connected to the planet or my feet on the ground or the nitrogen or carbon cycle. Like, I don't feel connected to the person that I've known for 20 years that I'm, hanging out with and laughing in the moment. But then I get home alone and I'm sobbing, and I'm, sitting in the shower, rocking back and forth to soothe myself, doing everything within my power to not, relapse back on using substances to numb that, as well as actual pain. So I've been there. I understand some of what you're going through, probably, and I know we can never know. And I'm not a competition. Obviously, it's all relative to wherever you are and whatever you've been through. But the hobby and the science of it, when I couldn't find religion, or when no one religion, I should say, spoke to me, when no one feeling, even after seeing the kind of glowing light at the end of the tunnel in the ambulance telling me, Alex, you have to go back and you have to live for your wife and your mom. Like, they're going to be so upset if you leave them like this. After hearing some disembodied, so comforting voice and this warmth after shivering and being septic and, whatever, I still go to the skeptical point of view of my brain. And as much as I hold room for it to be, that was God, that was Jesus, that was Allah, that was Buddha, I don't know. I don't have the evidence. No, there was no name stated, there were no credentials given, and there were no citations. But it's like the deepest you can feel. It's the most profound experience I've had in this human body, in this human brain. Sorry, I got a cracker, piece of a cracker stuck on my lip. But this science, this observing, not just the fact that I like the sound of the water and that calms me. It reminds me of being a kid and walking down to the creek and like having a stick and, breaking the brush and making a trail and setting a little fish trap that may or may not have had any chance of working. Fishing with like cheese and catching, pike minnows that were invasive and selling them for $2 at the store so I could buy Laffy Taffy. I have all these memories around nature and around like, go entertain yourself. Like, from my parents, like, I'd get home and the door would be locked and I'd wait for my dad a lot of times, and he's supposed to be meeting me there. But a lot of times, yeah, I'd be waiting an hour or whatever. So my other friends, we'd build tree forts, or and in speaking of problematic, yeah, we would find like local neighbors that in many cases were very kind and helpful, but in other cases were trying to take advantage of, young guys that needed somebody. And, we out there, yes, I was with friends, but more so I was with myself. I was realizing, like, I'm a person. I have individual autonomy. When I grab something, I grab it. We went through this phase, and I'm going to admit this. I had a BB rifle, and I was really good with it when I was like 12 or 13. And you'd pump it, and I could hit like a crayon from 50 yards away, probably. Maybe not quite that far, maybe 25 yards away, like, yeah, 70 feet or so. I could hit a crayon and cut it right in half with a BB. And I could do that time after time. I could do it like 3 or 4 in a row, and better than most of my friends at the time, at least on that particular thing. And a bird flew by, and while it was flying, everybody that I was with, these older boys, were like, I bet you can't hit it, like, loser, or you won't. And I fired without thinking, and like, with just kind of like, yeah, I can. And it's still something that I feel bad about. Have I killed chickens when I lived on the farm later on in life, and with the communal living situations that I tried out, and also subsistence living? Yeah, and you thank those animals, you raise those animals, you care for those animals, or if it's in nature, it had a good life. It was a part of the ecosystem, it was a part of the environment. and it doesn't feel so wrong. But that, just hurting something for the sake of amusement and not even thinking about the consequences. When I walked over to that little bird that was just like taking labored breaths, I felt like the worst person on earth. And it still like puts kind of a rock or a lump in my stomach thinking that I did that, for no reason. Like, it was just a robin, and I don't know why. I just did it. And then my older friend was like, well, now you gotta put out its misery. And I couldn't do it, and I was crying, and they're all making fun of me because I think, like I said, I think I was maybe 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. And they're probably 13, 14, maybe 15, about 5 of us together, and in the woods, being boys, riding our bikes, and playing around in a big forested area. And that kid grew up to be like a psycho with real problems. But I remember too, they caught a mole, and they put it in a box, and they like gave it a top hat made out of like they cut one out of felt, and they were like posing it. And when the show Jackass was real popular, they were doing skits with this poor mole, and they would be like, oh, it's an earthquake, and they'd shake the box. And this poor thing was just so scared. And I remember trying to like feel like I screwed up with that bird, and I need to stand up for this mole. A mole's a weird looking thing. It's got those big paw things and weird nose and just weird twitchy attitude, but they're so sensitive. And I had read, even at age like whatever I was, 13 maybe, I had read about how sensitive a mole is, and that mole's hair doesn't grow out and flow in a direction. Like our hair tends to flow down, like our body. If you're standing upright, it flows down and back, like as if you're gonna swim through the water or fly through the air. It goes with it. Moles, they have to be able to go forward, backwards, up, down, so they can't have a prejudice in the way their hair comes out, or it would be annoying, and also the hair would break over repeated stress of it moving and flexing and blah blah blah. But that's where moleskin jackets and things get their name, is it's working felt and other materials so that the fabric comes straight out and is very dense. But with that, in moles, they use the sensory nerves at the hair follicle. They have all these little sensory nerves, and the fact that they can't see, they took, if you ever know what a homunculus is, it's like this drawing of humans by how many nerves there are in each part. Here, I'll pull it up because it's interesting. But homunculus man, if he can't feel it, it's probably not real. Okay. Share, Sonny and share. All right, share. There we are. Let's see. What does that do? Okay. So as you see here, your hands, your lips, you see how big that picture is of like some like these figures. It's to show proportionally how much of your body feels nerve wise, where it's at. And moles are built like this. They kind of look like this, minus they have a little tiny nose instead of big lips. But because of that, I knew that this little guy, the more I educated myself, the more I knew about the nature. The more I knew about the nature, the more I felt bad harming the nature. And this is gonna sound perhaps stupid or like Alex, duh. But if you have not interacted with a group of people, an animal, a mineral, a state park, a landscape, going into the desert and camping, having a good time, being with someone you love and spending a night under the stars in the desert, having good memories and interactions, going for a hike and seeing beautiful animals and the clouds and how they roll in and the afternoon thunderstorms and, just spring in the desert and the smell of the sagebrush. If you don't know that, it's just like a Windows or a computer screensaver image of or a caricature of like what is a desert. And the more you learn about each element of it, and that the saguaro cactuses, that they can be hundreds of years old, and there's these ancient things, and that there's whole ecosystems of animals and plants and organisms and lichen and moss and things that live on them and around them, like old growth trees, like a rainforest almost, but in the desert. The more it's like it becomes sad to think about one being cut down. Whereas if I were not informed on them, I'd see one cut down and I'd be like, it's like a shrub. It's a cactus. It's like you can buy those at like grocery stores as like a $15 tchotchke. Yeah, it's a big one, but I mean, like, whatever, there's more. And so when I knew about the mole and all the nerve endings and stuff, it really tortured me. And that's why I think the aquarium world can do the opposite of PTSD, the opposite of depression and anxiety. It can show you the beautiful and mysterious connections between whatever it is you're interested in, or maybe you didn't even know you would think it's interesting, but whether that's science or physics or biology or chemistry or embargoes and Iranian shipping lanes, whatever it may be, there can be a link to a hobby that you're doing. And for me, the aquarium hobby, it's been botany, it's been water chemistry, it's been what pollution does, what agriculture does, what forever chemicals do in the water, sustainable fisheries, where we get our protein from. Is it ethically right to keep these little fish in glass boxes? What kinds? What are the different, outcomes, and which ones are going to all just die dried up in the desert during the dry season anyways? And all of that is fascinating to me, and it really healed me, and that's why I say aquariums saved my life. Not because there were times when I had lost hope and I was beyond going to counseling. I was over it. I'd tried it for years. I'd tried different medications. I'd asked for help. I'd tried abusing things. I'd tried doing things the right way, the wrong way, and everything in between. And it's these little breakthroughs of like, I found a way to hold on for one day at a time. I at least figured that out. But then beyond that, the aquarium and the search for knowledge, education, learning from you guys, from friends, from other aquarists, and finding out that tidbit that is like, I had the lock, I had the key, I even had the key in the lock, but I didn't know if I turn it right or left. And by looking at an aquarium and watching how, for instance, the color red on a guppy means that the female guppies will mate orange or red. If none of them have red or orange on them and one baby suddenly shows up with orange or red, that male, he is going to be the one that the females want. And that's because orange and red in the wild, in guppies and in endlers, is directly linked to their immune system and their health. So it means that they have a very diverse repertoire of fighting that. It also means that they have an access to carotenoids, anthocyanins, astaxanthin, and lycopene and things like that are also antioxidants, and that will make them live longer and have more energy. And then they decide, do they want to use it for becoming beautiful and red and orange? And that shows that, yeah, they have access to all the feeding spots, and they're strong enough to defend this feeding spots. And I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have looked that up. I wouldn't have looked up the research on, is there a color of guppy that's more popular than another? I wouldn't have even thought that until looking at the aquarium and caring for these little fish and a simple guppy. And it's in finding that magic connection that I got a fix. I got a little bit of a high or like a, oh yeah, that's interesting, that's cool. It made me smile when nothing had made me smile for days, right? And it made me think like, okay, well then how do fish see the world? Like, aren't there chemicals involved? And like, I mean, do they even see color like orange? Like, I thought they'd be like cats or dogs where they don't see. And like, whoa, they see, a lot of fish see more color than humans can, and they can hear a different range than humans can hear. Like, I have videos on all these things, but this is why, to me, it's an incredible hobby, and why nature grounds us, and why nature is meditative. Nature is, you help other people and you get out of your own head, you help animals, you focus on the environment, you focus on nurturing or caring for something like a garden. It gives back to you in knowledge, it gives back to you in actual usable product. If it's breeding fish in that way, it's so inspiring to me. And I just want as many people as possible to understand that and to see that possibility and to know maybe I'm never going to need some toad in the Sonoran Desert, right? But maybe the cure for Alzheimer's is going to be in a venom gland in some toad that everyone overlooked forever, and it's going to happen to heal brain tissue like nothing we've ever seen before. 85% of pharmaceuticals and 40% of military devices are based on biomimicry. I just was checking that number for a video recently. Really, really cool. Okay, I'm going to continue on. I know I kind of went off on a thing there. MT Coiner, thank you so much. I also see your super chat. I appreciate it, honestly. Not understanding politics is an impediment in 2026. If we aren't supposed to talk about politics, but it's injected into everything. Sometimes this, yeah. I agree, and also things like the fact that we have no one to enforce the Endangered Species Act other than game wardens and things. Which, no offense, but they're not the best at doing that, and they just tend to piss hunters off and stuff. If you've ever been a hunter, if you've ever been a part of a small town, you know that like a good game warden, everyone loves, nobody has a problem with. Everyone will tip them off and be like, hey, these jerks are ruining it for everyone over here. And there's a good relationship. Whereas if you get someone who's crooked or bad, or who's just by the book and not by the spirit of like helping conserve things and make it so that there's a future for this nature for our kids to have, they won't last long. They'll be out of there quick. People will be short with them. People will snap. Bad things happen. But there's just, other than that front line, and people who I guess just straight up do it online and then admit it, and maybe some cop sees it or something, some Fed sees it. There's not like a unit right now that was part of a lot of our aid stuff, but it got cut. The funding for education, for aid, for a lot of things that you wouldn't expect is like inserted into these big bills and stuff. Now, I'm not saying that like, oh, that means that Trump's evil and all the little endangered species are going to die because of Trump. I'm not saying that. You can make that inference, but I'm saying that right now, like the EPA, for instance, isn't allowed to acknowledge shifts in the climate. So their hands are completely tied to, for instance, then pay out money. FEMA, for instance, then can't cite their work with the EPA and say, like in Florida, oh, a hurricane took out that sandbar, and we have 40 years of data showing this is how it works and blah, blah, blah. And they did implement these things to shore up their environment. They were in this rating safety zone. Now they're in this. Well, now like there's big questions, and people are saying, well, what happens if a hurricane hits? Like, how are they going to decide any of that? Who's going to get a payout? So we can debate, as you said, we can debate whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, whether there are too many damn government employees and laws and regulations anyways. But we have to admit what the reality on the ground is. You could say that, yeah, well, that should all be handled by the county. Great. We can talk about that. That's a separate conversation. Right now, it's not being handled by anybody. And so the fact that people get mad when you state what's going on is because our society has become so charged that people are assuming you're filling in the blank on the conversation. They assume they know that you're the caricature or stereotype on the right or on the left, or the blue-haired liberal, or the mega red hat wearing Kid Rock lover, but I don't know, whatever. They're assuming all these things like, well, that must mean this, that, and the other. And when you get to talk to people, when you talk to the amazing people in this world, you realize that everything is shades of gray too. There are a ton of Democrats that hunt, that have guns, that are Second Amendment backers and would never give up that. There are plenty of Republicans, and plenty of also hunters are the biggest advocates there are for showing up to the hearings and stuff about protecting our lands, ranchers and things for protecting our open grazing lands and our public lands, rather than selling off federal lands for profit in the short term, or to pay off certain things, or to fund certain programs. So we need to stop assuming all of that and try to just see where people stand. Fishery, I can remember a stream where cullies were spawning in a breeding container. They were changing colors and everything. Any fry ever come from that? Jack, that's a good question. So I got 5 or 6 fry that I saw, and they were so tiny. They were like little hairs. They were actually, literally, when they were first born, they weren't much thicker than like floral wire. And there were a lot, and a lot were stillborn. And I don't know if that's because they didn't have nutrition, or they got stuck on the way out, whatever happened. But I never saw them hatch, come to think of it. So actually, I don't know if they were born in eggs or if they were hatched live or what. But I did see them right after they were free swimming. And I assumed they're eggs and then free swimming. But yeah, 4 or 5 survived, because I went from like 4 big, chunky cully loaches. That's an exaggeration. They're like 4 or 5 inches. And then all of a sudden I had 9 or 10 of them, right? So makes a difference. So guys, Babalti shrimp I would not recommend for beginners. I think they're awesome. There are a lot of different Babalti shrimp, which is annoying. There's about 15 species called Babalti shrimp, including like raccoon and cheetah shrimp, stuff like that, stardust shrimp. And the green Babalti, the orange Babalti, the AKA ninja color changing black and red Babalti, the Egyptian and Iraqi Babalti, and then the Indian Babaltis are all some I can think of off the top of my head. They tend to be a little finicky. They tend to not breed nearly as quickly as other shrimp, and but it is possible. I think a lot of it depends on your tap water and researching which variant you have. And the other problem is, for years, nobody went and tracked down like, these shrimp are from here, these are from there. Like, it was all just kind of like, I got them from a guy who got them from a guy, and they like really soft water. Like, I mean, that's not good enough when it comes to a shrimp with special needs in pH, KH, GH, diet, whatever. You need to know. Hold on, I need to eat a bite of a cracker. I'm just reading your thoughts here real quick. Sorry, guys. I need to eat like 2 bites of something because my stomach. I'm getting like the like where it feels like it's gonna burp, but it's just stomach acid reflux. That's what it's called. Mm-hmm. This 100%. Lisa, if it's well planted, 20 to 30, no problem. And especially in a 20 long, or a 20 even, no problem. Yeah. How did you finally overcome the horrible allergic reaction to cats? The cat protein shot? No. I still do get allergic reaction. I can't pick up the cat and like rub her on any soft tissue near my eye, near my nose, my mouth. If I get a cat hair in my mouth, you guys have probably seen it where I'm going and trying to like, and then I have to gurgle. I also am on prednisone for my autoimmune disorder, and that is actually just so much stronger than allergy medicine. It subdues your immune system, and mine is so overactive that, yeah. So that's how I got over it, I guess, is I didn't. And when I get off of that, or if I'm trying to get on biologics also, yeah, I'm trying to get on the biologics and off the prednisone so that I could do an injection once a week or twice a week. But it's $6,000 for the 2 brands. One's actually like 12,000 if you know, I tried to go for some of them that are out there, but my doctor's like, we can't even get you covered on this one or that one. So hopefully, you know, the prices have come down. They were like insane, like 16 grand or something originally a month, and then they came down to like 7 or 8, and now they're kind of like 4 to 6, and now there's some that are like even as low as like 1,000 or 2,000. But I can't afford that every 2 weeks or once a month even. Like, I can't afford that. So yeah. Also, I was gonna say today when we got our water fixed, like anytime anyone comes in the house, $500. Like if you have any sort of expert, whether that's an expert on plumbing or roofing or electronics, whatever, you know, you name it, it's going to be like $500, at least in Seattle. Maybe that's like, maybe put the market 300. I need to stand, guys. My back's killing me. Put the market 300 in certain other areas in the US perhaps. But yeah, it's crazy. So good night, Brazil. Craig's Catfish, what's going on? Good to see you, man. But yeah, just wild. Owning a house is a crazy process. Crackers taste better with Coke. I agree. I used to go home, and I used to, after school, I'd get a whole roll of saltines and I'd drink a Coke or a Pepsi, and I'd sip it, and the bubbles would come from the salt on the cracker, and I loved the way it like made my nose tickle, and I'd just sit and eat a whole roll of all that starch and sugar and crap. Terrible for you. But yeah, somebody on FishTube is live. Oh yeah, is everyone else hiding? Is everybody else afraid? What are they afraid for? Sketty Nonia, what's going on? Jordan, thank you so much for the congratulations. And Loretta Jackson, what's going on? True that Redfish Bluefish is closing. I was happy that they were back open again. And have been hoping to get some European bred white clouds, just waiting for better times. I hear you. There's not going to be better times with them. I mean, hopefully Aquatic Arts, or actually, no, it won't be Aquatic Arts that has the best deal probably. It'll be Moonlight Aquatics. Use the code FISH310. see when he gets some. He should be getting some white clouds with Hong Kong genetics that are the ones that are also all over Europe, where they've got the longer fins with the red and the orange and the yellow, and they're chef's kiss, beautiful. Sorry, I'm smacking the microphone, causing problems. But yeah, really, really interesting. How many varieties they've bred out of those mountain minnows already, and meteor minnows. Yeah, but redfish, bluefish, closing. Yep, you got to order sooner or later. They're going to be gone soon. All of it. He's the last of the last is going out the door. And again, he can't afford the tariffs. He can't afford driving. He has a truck. He lives on Whidbey Island, so he has to take a ferry and then get to the airport. He was doing all the importing himself, and you have to fill out paperwork on every species and every plant and blah, blah, blah. All of that had to be done from every country it's coming from. And when you do it yourself, it's like a big task. It's a full-time job, and doing that plus fulfilling orders plus taking care of the creatures, plus the guy worked freelancing doing like big time security for telecom and networking communications and stuff. But he just, I mean, he and a number of other people, I've heard them just talk about death by a 1,000 cuts the last year. The business is just going down, closing, and that's that. As far as a lot of people are concerned, the fish people are. It may not be that fish prices have necessarily even gone up a ton, but it's everything else. It's the electricity bill. It's the gas to go drive to the airport and pick up the boxes of fish. It's the price of the air freight. $80 to ship some fish, overnight shipping that people won't pay. It's all that stuff. And so I'm trying to help y'all out. Hey, Asiriana, good to see you. Asia, also Queen Kai, hello, good to see you. Aquarium Fantasy, what's up? Welcome, come on in. So the other thing I want to show you guys is I'm hoping to go up there tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. But I have something to show you real quick. I don't know how much I can show you of this, but I think you guys, I think I'm getting it where I want it. And there was a time that I last talked to you guys where I was like, guys, I don't know what the heck I'm doing with this Aquascape. I feel like I'm in over my head, and I like they had faith in me, and I'm gonna let them down, blah blah blah. And I told you guys that I had reset things several different times, and that I needed to make an aquascape that looked like a fire around a campfire to show off the primitive idea that fish, freshwater fish, cooking fish, humans catching fish, fishing, and then later us taking fish, and whether it was catching fish in Egypt and in China and in the Balkans, we would catch fish. Polynesia, Australia, 45,000 years ago, there's proof that they had weirs and baskets and different locks to sort different size fish by how high they could jump and by how big of rocks they could swim through in Australia. And a mudslide came and covered up a whole like mile stretch of what was once a river. Well, that then was able to be excavated, and they literally found the old path of the river the way it used to be, with all these artifacts from 43,000 years ago. We never find fibers and things from that old, because all the rope and stuff was made out of grass and hemp and maybe sinew or animal, gut or hide or something. But it breaks down so badly usually that there's like nothing left unless it's 3, 4, 5,000 years old, or like a mummy within that range. or a natural or human made one. But when we're talking over 10,000 years, it's just like, yeah, don't even expect to see it. But we actually find fragments of netting, and we find weighted stones. We find clubs made from a specific really heavy wood that would have been used to throw at fish and like literally bludgeon them in shallow water, as well as spears and things. Super wild. And yeah, so because of that, as you guys may or may not know, obviously I've given that talk many times about humans and our connection of how we were shaped, how that protein allowed our brains to grow faster than any time in history ever before. And from 700,000 years ago to 500,000 years ago, we became the Homo sapiens we are today. Well, it was around the campfire, cooking these fish, talking about fishing stories, being able to carry the ember onto a boat or even onto a canoe and bring fire with us to cook fish, to cook mussels, fresh water, oysters and clams and crayfish, crawfish, shellfish, whatever, and all the fish in the Rift Lakes of Africa. That protein, that cooking it, it's all written in the enamel of the pharyngeal teeth of these fish. So long story short, I have a talk talking about how humans have been shaped by fish, and then later we start domesticating fish and shaping them. They start shaping our religions and things, because it becomes a very high status thing to build an entire lock system of pens and cages for fish. And it becomes very powerful when you can feed 100, 200 people by controlling a stretch of the river that's been engineered by very intelligent people to catch fish, raise fish, and have them ready year round. That allows people to live in one place year round, or at least for 6 months, 8 months, and then come back seasonally if it's a spawn or whatever. This may be, there's lots of things people have thrown out, everything from mushrooms to beer to copper. People have thrown out all sorts of things as reasons why we settled down and formed cities and formed cultural groups and societies and things. But my argument as an archaeologist, as an amateur ichthyologist, is that it has something, I'm not saying all of it, but a lot to do with freshwater fish, freshwater sustenance, and our relationship with that. And that's why we're drawn to water. That's why we get our nitrogen from the plants and the fish and things. And the nitrogen cycles interaction in water, so fascinating. It's everywhere. The fact that we breathe oxygen and we're out in this air, yet it's what kills our cells. We just talked about this last live stream, but it's such a dualism that, like, yes, oxygen destroys all living cells, kills them. It's bad for them. It destroys them. It causes errors in copying. Yet we need it to survive in the short term, in the moment. But so all that being said, I have a sneak peek. I can't show you the full video yet, but this is how that tank is shaping up. I haven't even showed this yet to George or the ADA people, but it looks essentially like like a campfire. Can we get it better to focus? I'm kind of doing a bad job of this on purpose so that nobody's saying, Alex, you put a high resolution thing before you even showed them. So basically I'm growing in the carpet, but we've got the flame and the wood and the rocks around it. And then also we've got the entire background, which is going to be yellow and purple, like plants. Anyways, so it's like a campfire that you would gather around. It's very gimmicky for me. And aquascaping is so artificial in a lot of ways that, like, I was just leaning into that, like, topiary, like, this is just a groomed thing, right? And then you know, I also have gained a new appreciation putting it all together. So while I've been putting it together, I've also been filming new shorts, new videos about how do I like the filter? How did I put the filter together? How does it work? What's different? What's the same with common filters? What little quirks am I noticing? Is it worth it? Which, let me save you the time and tell you, no. There is no ADA stuff that, like, you're gonna say $400 or $600 for a filter. It's a pump and a steel container, and it clamps down. You can open it. You can clean the entire motor, which is cool. Like, you can literally take the whole thing apart to its base component parts with like a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver, and maybe one Allen key, which is cool. And it means that you can have an ADA pump for 20 years and service it yourself and never have it break down. Whereas my Fluval or Marineland or AquaPro or AquaTop, any of those kind of brand HOVs, they're fine as a hang off the back for a while, but then they start getting issues, or the impeller starts getting and they make the impeller out of crappy plastic that breaks, and then you got like a lopsided impeller, and then you get the snails getting in there and it just starts breaking. So the thing is, I wanted to make that concept for them and show them, you know, you guys know I've been growing out plants since October, really, starting planting them in CO2. And now it's time to really see this plan come to fruition. Like the fact that I had cuttings that were this tall with roots that were like as tall as the plant above the root stock. I've never really started with those kind of plants in an aquascape. I've always kind of used tissue cultures, and tissue cultures are great. So I've also made videos about those, but then it's going to be a matter of releasing and editing, and it's going to take just time. But I wanted to tell you that, like, don't worry, I didn't forget. I haven't not been doing it. It's well on its way. In fact, the first stage arguably is it's pretty much complete, as far as I need to let it grow in for like a couple more weeks, but it's set to look the way I wanted it to look. You know, I want the back to be a wall of like purple and light yellows or greens, and then I want the fire to be a really red, orange, and there can be yellow hues in that too. But and the wood in that shape to be kind of like this, like that flame, and then the rocks around it, I've got all the Butzophilandra and Hygrophila, Pinnatifida, as well as some other interesting things like Cypress Hellfry downway, which is a beautiful plant once it gets going. So we'll see how it goes, and you know how I can do with the cutting edge stuff, and if I can keep the algae away or whatnot. We'll see. But it'll be a learning experience, if nothing else. It's been a little while since we've done anything like that, and I hope though that Japan's stoked on it. I hope that AFA is stoked on it. When they see it, you know, I'll send it to them soon. And the other thing is that you know, they're not paying me per se, but they gave me that beautiful setup, and it's something that I would never buy myself. So when I review it, I have to say as much that it's a pump and a container that you put filter media in. Is it worth $600 or $700 for that pump, for that filter? No, it's probably worth 40 or I don't know, $80 at best. But the fact that it's the company that invented literally Aquasoil, it's the company that invented the top headspace filtration units with canisters, the different ways hooking things up, the glass versus stainless steel versus plastic argument of your tubes. The fact that they are designing things, that they make stuff so that you have your aquarium and it is a work of human art. It is a work of man manufacturing steel. I mean, woman, man, whatever. It's not trying to be prejudiced here, but steel, glass, aluminum, and the lighting, tech, electricity wires, maybe some wood or granite or something in the stands and stuff. But it is that very cold, non-living things. And it's stylized beautifully in very like a German or kind of a modern, almost Art Deco or Bauhaus or even like brutalist style. Yet everything in the tank, they're ready for that to be real stone. They're ready for that to be tissue cultures that they provide, that you can buy from them, that are just beautiful options and selections of plants from all over the world that you can't get anywhere else, and that they introduce in these lines. So are you paying for that one filter, or are you paying for the brand? Are you paying for the experience? Are you paying for, I could have 20 tanks for the $1 per gallon sale, and I could run them even without a filter at all? That's an option. And if you want to do that, I have a whole channel where I've covered years of doing that. But I do now understand, especially for people who have the money, I don't, but for people who have the money, they can say, I'm going to spend $5,000. And that doesn't break the bank for them. That's not like, oh man, now what am I going to do about my bills this next month? If you can spend that $5,000, and it might as well be $2,000 or $5,000, why not spend the 3 to 5 and get yourself a absolutely beautiful, cutting edge aquascape system, and encourage that brand, that company that has brought that to the world. I mean, there wouldn't be these cheap Chinese and Temu like copy knockoffs of the beautiful Japanese, Taiwanese, German blown glass, the lily tubes, the the bubble counters, all that kind of stuff. Just wouldn't be here if they didn't have ADA, AFA, UNS, and Boost to copy off of. Now, granted, it's been democratized, and so I totally get it. I get everybody's opinion in this matter, and that's what's going to make it a little interesting to find. So yeah, interesting here. One thing, hey Chris Al, good night, have a good one. Yeah, so hominids in Barnham, South England, iron pyrite, they found dated 250. Those must not have been, that must not be, yeah, they're not, so they're hominids, so they're probably Neanderthals probably, or maybe Heidelbergensis, or maybe Homo erectus even, probably not. I don't think they left Africa that way. But yeah, probably Neanderthal. Humans came in another wave, like 60 to 40, depending on who you ask, 1,000 years ago out of Africa, and kind of came in a big wave through the Middle East and then on into Anatolia, Turkey, and the everywhere from heading across the Bosphorus and going into the Balkans and Europe, and then also going into Central Asia and over to the kind of the start of the steppes, and then down along Iran and into India and down along the coast. There was probably one group at 80,000 years ago, one at 60,000, one at 40,000, either 3 or 2 big groups probably left is last their thinking with genetics the way they are. But what's really cool, and if you haven't heard my hour-long talk, which it's online, is about the fact that they found evidence that Homo sapiens lived in Israel 790,000 years ago. Almost 800,000 years, almost a million years ago. And they were eating these carp, these big koi-like things, these big jumping carp type fish that are now extinct in these lakes in the Levant. And they were eating them and cooking them, but there was not char on the fish. There was the crystallization that occurs in the enamel in the pharyngeal or throat teeth of the fish showed that it had been heated between 100 and 400 degrees, not above 400, not above 500 or 600. Each has a unique presentation when that happens. And before that, all the fish they find is heated very, like, either just charred to hell, it's like been carbonized even, or it's very inconsistent. There's some that's really hot, some that's really cold, some that was heated all the way, and some where it's just been tossed. And they find these pits of basically the little tiny bones from the throat, and under a microscope they look at that and they're like, wow. What do you think the first hominid that tried to keep a fish as a pet? You know, I've really thought a lot about that, and it sounds kind of fun or funny, but it's something that I've really thought a lot about. And I think it may be the Australians. It's probably not, though. It's probably Africans, and it's probably a Rift Lake group living maybe in modern day Sudan, in the marshes of like Lake Tanganyika or somewhere like that. And probably they built rock little pools. So you make a circle out of rocks and you allow the fry to come and go as they please. And then the bigger fish are stuck in there, and they can eat the fry that come in if you make a big enough pool, and they can get bigger and stuff. You can throw corn or grain or cut up meat, cut up other fish and throw it back to them, crush up snail shells and feed it back to them. But it's seen all throughout the world as far back as we can go, and in illustrations on caves and things, that people were making these ponds and keeping fish for food as far back as we know. I mean, like probably over 100,000 years. And like I said, we have proof in both China at 40,000 years and in Australia at 43,000 years. And there's another tentative site that's 47.5 to 48,000 years old, that is, and I think it's called Breruwara or Breruware. Sorry if I just butchered that, guys. But anyways, Breruwara. And it is absolutely incredible. Also, we find from 8,000 to 10,000 years ago in Yunnan, China, we see that the rice tiers that are up on, that go up, you've seen probably screensavers, windows or whatever, where they have these terraces of rice. Well, that style of growing rice came from India, and it was a technology called flooded rice agriculture. Before, you could grow rice and you could thrash it and beat it and try to catch the grains. Well, after this, they would flood it, and they would actually then allow the rice to grow more mature and plump up and stuff. And then they would cut it all and smash it all, hit it and bang against it, and it would float on the water. And then they'd get it off the top of the water, and then they'd drain the water. Well, then they'd have to add manure and add nitrogen and carbon and charcoal and all these things that they had to figure out. They added that back to the soil on these terraces, because otherwise they just get depleted in a matter of a few years. And so they did some of the earliest circular crop rotation, as it's called. And in that crop rotation, we have found from 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 years ago, we find these little areas where we'll find 20 or 30,000 skeletons of carp or of giant gouramis or something like that, right? And they'll find one little pen area where it's all fish that are over 12 inches, and another where there's barely anything even preserved because they're such fine specimens, but there are only, minnow size baby fish around. And so whether it was for insect control, for comfort, insect control, disease control and monitoring, to stop them from harming the rice, or to clear out whatever was eating and causing problems on the plants underwater, maybe dragonfly larvae or something, I don't know, mayfly, whatever it may be, they tolerated these fish, and then they clearly found a way to also raise them and utilize them, put them in one terrace, let them go to town, then collect them all before they drain it, put them in another area. And that's really early on. And so if those were the first people with quote unquote pet or fish that you kept for food, and if something like that could go back as far as 40, 50,000 years, I mean, we know that the Philippines and like the Solomon Islands, some of the journeys in between those places, like between your main, like Taiwan, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, Malaysia, between that kind of like near Sundaland that used to be connected, they're the next step of canoes out that would have taken outriggers and intentionality to get there. Probably something like 30 or 40,000 years ago as well, around the time of some of the southern Australian and Tasmanian colonization. We see things like atolls saltwater ponds being made, and different chiefs and families would own the rights to these ponds for hundreds of years. They would also only allow certain people, like in Egypt, only certain people could eat pufferfish, for instance, and only certain people could eat mormyrids, or the electric fish, or the fish that causes warmth in your hand. Like that's one of the translations for the electrical signal it gives. That was literally seen as medicine, that fish. Very fascinating. And there were laws where you could lose your life for poaching those fish while the pharaoh, if it was one of the pharaohs who cared. So I would say that not only for the power it shows in controlling food access for a large group of people and allocating the resources, but beyond that, a lot of people, even into like Greek, Roman, Carthaginian, Cyprus, wherever, Anatolia, all throughout the Mediterranean, they had people that were doing stuff with fish and starting to selectively breed fish, starting to keep them by different sizes, keeping more than one species, utilizing them for certain things for a part of the year, and then moving them. And so when you get something like that that's set up, all this imagery of fish becomes very prevalent. We see a ton of ancient art with fish and eels and mussels, crabs, octopus, snails, clams, all of that, super common. And what's wild is that is the stuff that then became like, oh, I have access to the albino version of your fish that you need to stay alive. So the king or the pharaoh or whatever, the emperor, would then end up, wanting a gold version, or wanting to breed an all black version, or whatever it may be, the special one, the rarest one, the coolest one, the most status symboled one of the thing that was the status symbol. And you start to see religious cults and proto-religions and things with like fish as symbols, like Jesus and the fish. It's not just from the story about Jesus and, or teaching a man to fish, or any of the proverbs like that. No, it goes way back farther. And it's a symbol of like worship, underground, different sects worshiping. Very, very interesting. let's see here. I know a caveman somewhere had a rock puddle or a cave stream, and they threw a fish in it from the lake. So yeah, I mean, we know that that was common with the fish in Native American places. Also in Native South America, in the Andean highlands, people would bring fish. Like Lake Titicaca is like 15,000 feet up or something insane like that. I don't remember the exact elevation, but it's super high up. Like y'all can't breathe. People like pass out when they get off the airplane there. And it's like 5 miles high city or 3 miles high city, right? And yet there's a diversity of fish up there, which is cool naturally, but there's also a bunch of invasives. And beyond that, though, those fish are now found all throughout the former Nazca, Inca, Toltec, all the way up into Maya and Aztec lands in the Yucatan and Central America, and then all the way down to you've got like the Atacama Desert people, but even all the way down into Patagonia and stuff, you've got some of the different like edible species that they were bringing, and they would take the little fish and they would put them. Hey, cool. My wife brought home a pizza pie for my big fat eye, and we spent a bunch of money so we can take a warm shower, and now we're gonna feel better with the pizza. Pizza pie. I think it's chicken and garlic sauce. Anyways, guys, let me get to the last thing I was gonna mention. Other than, I still promise we're gonna give away. We'll do. Maybe I should do another series of Sulawesi shrimp. Love Sulawesi shrimp. I keep Malawa shrimp, which are from Sulawesi. They're from the whole island. They're the freshwater shrimp found in the streams. So they have a wide variety of parameters that they can happily live in. Whereas there are the ones from all the lakes in the center of the place that have alkaline water and very mineral rich water, and those ones are beautiful. There's 64 species with Lake Poso and what's the other one, Lake Mapo and Poso, and I don't know, there's like 5 or 6 lakes that are attached there. Loso. Anyways, they're attached when the wet season rains, and then they've been being killed because dum-dums have been putting crayfish, but worse than that, tilapia and flower horns in these once in a universe, 11 million year old island, 6 million year old lake system, been untouched. The most incredible half beaks and little rasboras and 8 or 9 of the Medaka rice fish species, all separated and evolved in these lakes and in the center of Sulawesi. And we have people releasing flower horns. So annoying. Hey, U.S. Marine Corps, good to see you. Better late than never. Better late than never for sure. Better never than broke. I don't know what's better than that. So the last thing I was gonna encourage y'all to do also is, if you haven't looked for a while, go ahead and go to like Moonlight Aquatics for one, but go to Aquatic Arts too. Check out some of what they have. So I wanted to look at Moonlight Aquatics real quick first, because he just got new stuff in, and I'm going up there tomorrow to take a look at what's like new. But he has a whole lot of these, and they're at an insane price. Red coral pencil fish. Look at this. These are the really red ones, and they are only $14.99. Those are norm. And then you guys use code FISHERY10, and you go from $14.99 to $13.50 for that price. And then also, usually when you buy 10, they'll give you at least another one free, if not maybe 2, just the way they ship stuff. Also, they still have some of the ultra rare stuff, like the Vulcan, the Vulcan Corridor that I absolutely would love to have. I think I'm going to get maybe some of those pencil fish for the new tank that look like. Maybe some yellow shrimp. Sorry about that, guys. Let me pop goes the weasel. Doo-ba-doo-doo-doo-doo. Boop-ba-doo-ba-doo. All right. Share. Okay. Let's see here. I was in vertical live. You didn't see it when you were talking about humans setting a base of fish that could be exploited out to why pastoralist cultures, Mongolians never settled. Wasn't it? Wait, was it in the vertical live? So you didn't see it? When you were talking about humans settling based on fish, could that be extrapolated out to why pastoralist cultures, Mongolia? It's a good question though. If they were able to, master horses, cattle, goats, chickens, even the basics, and they live in certain parts of the world where certain foods are bountiful and hunting game is bountiful, and it's so desolate as far as like there's a river and the animals have to come to that river for hundreds of miles. You can set up for a long while along that river and just stay there and hunt and exploit that, and then they'll move every few years. The Mongolians, though, I mean, that's way later than what we're talking about settling down. We're talking, they've already gone through phases in Mongolia, which Mongolia today has only a few million people. But if you look at that area, the steppe people really is what we're talking about, the hill tribes and things of those areas and the borders of China and the Koreas, as well as the Central Asian countries. They, in some places they were settled. In other places it was because of the salt trade. But when you have a river, you can fish out of, obviously you follow the rivers. When you have horses, you still need to follow water to some degree, but if it rains enough where you are, you can follow where the horses or where the deer or whatever go. And so I would say that yes, you could extrapolate some things from that, but I would also say that I wouldn't draw a straight conclusion, because there's a lot of time that passed in between those things and how that all unfolded. But it's a cool thought, and I think there's plenty of excuses of why I'd like to brainstorm and think about it. Like it's a cool topic for sure. So thanks for that. So shopping fish, guys, over there. Look at it, $3.99 for the Bloody Mary Neocaridina. These are such red shrimp. He's still got the blueberry snails, both orange and the blueberry original. So the blueberry and then the orange or peach colored one. He's got the blue jelly. $3.99 for shrimp, and you buy 9, he gives you the 10th one free. Plus you get 10% off with Fishery 10. Really good deals. Pea puffers, $8.99. They're super cute. $34 for the Ivancara bimaculata. I got a pair of those at the moment. But he also has some really interesting things, like only $30 for these like 3-inch long, almost full grown snow white bristlenose plecos like I have. Really beautiful. And, you know, depending on where you live, you could sell those for good money if you spawn them. Also, he's got everyone's favorite new stuff like the albino pygmicoras and the albino hebrosis and stuff like that. Also the albino orange laser, the Bumblebee Autosynclus. He has a white version of this. I don't think it's listed yet, but he told me that it would be coming. So these, for this price, these are $24.99 at when the Wet Spot sells them to everywhere else, like Aquarium Co-op and stuff around here. So that's a great price. Kalitawa rainbows, that's a good price too. But you know, the other great thing is all his plecos for $50. He's got so many now. And these Zebra Autosynclus, they do a phenomenal job of cleaning. Plus, they're just prettier, in my opinion, than normal Autosynclus. They're just so cool. And they're friendly. You can spawn them. If you did, you'd be able to make a good amount of money, since they go for 20 on a lot of websites and stuff like that. But I'm gonna go up to his spot and actually check it out, hopefully tomorrow with my dad. Also, he's got a lot of these new or newly described Stiphodons and little dwarf gobies and gobies. All of them that he's getting are mass spawners that basically try to go up a waterfall, and if they don't make it, sad things happen, right? So it's good that he is in the game selling these. I think it's pretty, you know, they're not taking them from the wild, from a source that's gonna get to its spawning ground. The vast majority won't, and a lot of them will be dying in the dry season, and they get them right after that in a lot of the places. Not in all of them, but in most places he's been dealing with, they have to go collect after that, the way the fisheries is set up. They just have to do that so that there'll be some that make it to spawn. But look at this, Zebra Plecos, $149, and these are the 2-inchers. I mean, they're good size, a lot of them, really beautiful, and just love to see them. Also, these Imperial Lapis Tetras, I mean, don't get me started, so beautiful. The Blueberry Wadai, another incredible Tetra. More guppies are in. The red-tailed spotted puffers, true freshwater gobies that turn banana yellow, and the black dots, and depends on what substrate they're on. Flaming arrow gobies, the orange Venezuelan cories. Look at that beautiful blue and orange. And also honeycomb catfish. These are wood catfish, driftwood catfish for $11.99. These things were always $20 to $30 at the Wet Spot when I wanted them years ago. Also, you know, lots of rainbow fish and other cool stuff. Lots more plecos. I think there's 8 or 9 pages of stuff that he's got right now that's in stock. And then there's a few he still needs to upload. But again, more Stiphodon, more incredible Pentanolensis for $34.99. These are the brooches, incredible. They're like gold and mottled looking. They're so pretty. A lot of these also, like the blue laser and the orange laser. Also the Milky Way woodcat, beautiful, super cool. You know, Bosemani rainbow fish, or I'm sorry, Hoplosoma. I always think of the Bosemani rainbow fish. But these are a really small, cute little cory. Love them. And again, more odd, you know, Melantinia pygmaei. The red devil hillstream loach, just like the Bloody Mary hillstream loach. He's got the different color tail lines and stuff, which is really exciting. The blue color tail line with the gold on it. He's got so much good stuff. So if you want, support the channel, support him. Here he's got Sanipa and he's got Rio Amaya. These are the real deal, the darkest of the dark you'll ever get. They're all red. $34.99. The first pair or the first trio of these went for $1,500 in Hong Kong in the year 2023. And already you can get them for 34 bucks or these for 30. And again, you're going to get another 10% off of that. You know, use the magic word Fishery10. Also, you know, there's just so many cool $40, $38 polka dot hillstream loaches, plecos, interesting plecos, interesting these Barito loach. Super cool. Barbados cories, the scleromastics, Barbados, super cool little guys. Longfin adult bristlenose plecos that are the snow white with the blue eyes. Also, more of the super rare gudgeons. These midnight black rams. Look at how black they are. They've got just a little bit of the iridescent blue, and that's it. Scratch tetras. Look at this for only 24 bucks. Yellow Kogel tetras. Remember we looked at these and they turn like a beautiful amber, gold, and yellow. Oh, yeah, they still have those. They've also got the black rice fish from Sulawesi. So he's got some interesting stuff. He'll be adding stuff all the time. He's got a new shipment that just came in. So I'm sure he'll be adding stuff, but stay on top of it. Also, these are another incredible one. The Pujoati. Sometimes they can look really boring, right? Well, then when they're happy, when they're in their element, they can be just incredible. So a lot of times you'll see these new tetras and you're like, I don't know why everyone's so excited. And it's like, yeah, well, you haven't seen how they look in the wild yet. Like them's crazy. Hey Jeff, how's it going? Good to see you guys. I gotta get off of here soon. I should be streaming on Friday, but hopefully I will be also I will be streaming on Friday, but filming tomorrow for you guys. Anything cool? But yeah, look at this. Coolie loaches right there at Aquatic Arts. Again, Fishery. It's going across the bottom, but if you want something from Imperial Tropicals, just use the code Fishery at checkout. You'll get the discount. If you want it, we get the best discount here at Aquatic Arts. We get the 15% off, and we get the green sale price already. So if we see a sale price that's green, you get that. Also, here you can pick these packs of 3, so 9 total. A yellow, white, or orange, a monos, and then a sampler food. And they've got these boxes with all these leaves plus different foods, a mono shrimp, colorful Amano shrimp, and then they give you a portion of moss as well. Pretty cool. Also, they're going to start having more things like Springtails and stuff. They also have more BOGO deals. So when you go there, you can go to their deals section or new section, and you can see like what's going on for plants and things. They'll have a buy one get one going pretty much all the time. They've got something, but here you can see like the BOGO deals with that save 50%. Plants, look at that. They have the purple scarlet temple, or is it Cardinalis lobelia? Oh no, it's purple waffle. Never mind. It's a terrarium plant. But what was their deal with these? I knew they'd sell out. I told you guys in the comments of a post. I told members about it. But 3 giant coolie loaches for 14 bucks. But that's buy one get one. So it was actually, instead of $30, you would have paid $15 for 6 giant coolie loaches, but then you would have gotten our discount with Fishery 15, and so you would have gotten 15% off $15. So, you know, that's another what, $1.50 or whatever off the total. So you're down to like 13-ish or whatever for 6 giant coolie loaches. Pretty wild, the deals that they have when they do this. And they do this weekly now. They'll pick a couple fish and do that with, which is super cool. So use my code, help the channel out. If you're already going to buy something, why not support it? I think these guys do a great job. They've got lots of new stuff in that we can look at in the near future. I'm not going to bore you all with it today, but they're also supporting the care species, which Imperial Aquatics is also doing that. And anyways, guys, my internet is like, it's slowed down to near nothing. So you know, it's not, I'm not being able to stream very well anyways at this point. But you can see, like somebody mentioned, the mountain minnows earlier and stuff. There's $8.99 for them. But then that's not for each of them. That's going to be for a 3-pack. Like these are always for multiples. But people a lot of times will see these prices and they'll think $16.99. I can't pay that for this, and I wouldn't ever either. And then, you know, there's also free shipping over $250. It says does not combine with other discounts. I don't know what happens if you try to use my code with that. To be frank, like I don't know that that's a thing that they fixed or know about. But I'm not going to mention it. Also, they always have, you know, just great snails. They're carrying now the Isopods and live culture foods, which is great. These pink lady neorites. Dang it, I was going to buy those for that new aquarium layout. It's going to get some neorite snails too to help me with the doing glass cleaning patrol. But, you know, it's hard to go to my local pet stores anyways and to find anything that's other than mystery snails, Malaysian trumpet snails, ram's horn snails, bladder snails. That's pretty much it. I don't ever get, maybe sometimes assassin snails, but other than that, I really don't get it why there are so many snails out there in the hobby, but none are in around. You know, it's a bummer. With the options that are out there. They also have a bunch of great plants and foods, but invertebrates, remember, they also have all the crabs and crayfish. That right now, Borneo is really tough to get stuff out of just due to world events and things. But hopefully soon that will change and the stock will come back on these things. But they also sell a lot of live culture stuff here too, which is great. And they're sold out, but a lot of times if you write them an email, they'll be like, oh, actually, we have more, because they're breeding in-house. And it's just up to them to say, oh, we're selling 10 this week. And that'll allow us to like reconcentrate our efforts on growing out X, Y, or Z. And yeah, and that's really the issue. But let's see here. Fish, where did that go? Supplies. Botanic fish foods and diets. Is this going to be the live culture stuff? Because also I love like these pollen granules are great. Shrimp Envy food is like hands down my favorite. And yeah, you know, cool stuff. Cats Aquatics, lots of good stuff there. Last thing I'm going to show you guys is Imperial Tropicals. Use the code FISHERY. Yeah, it's not as big of a discount, but I do like to support them. You can watch my tour with their place. They have this sale section. Every week it changes. And this sale section is no joke. They've got some really awesome stuff. So instead of $14.99, $7.49 for this Severum. Instead of $12 for the Mexican orange miniature crayfish, $5.99. Neon swordtails, $4.99. When they were $12.99. Well, you'll get an additional discount when you use Fishery, and you'll support a good cause and the expansion of their facilities there. It's a family-run, independent, business in the fish hobby. What more could you ask for? Plus, they're super nice, knowledgeable, needy. No, I can't think of anything else. But they have things organized as well by different types and so forth. And if you're curious, look around there, use the code FISHTREE. All right, guys, I got to go eat that pizza with my wife. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. Also, Danikin, thank you so much. Kenny, appreciate it, brother. I really do. I hope you guys have a good night. I hope everybody has a good night. And I apologize for kind of ads. Also, Andy Carson, hello, for doing these kind of ads, pushing different things. But also, it comes from a place of, I know a lot of these businesses are hurting. So if you're thinking about buying stuff, think about buying it from the ones that you think are doing it right. It doesn't mean that, maybe I don't even know which place that is, or a breeder. Because I always say go to the home breeder first, then go to the local shop that buys from other home breeders and stuff. And, from there, just try to buy as close as you can where you can understand the supply chain, the health, and the ethics and the shipping and the how everything goes, and you can get information back when you need to know stuff. Also, Kenny, 65 months of supporting me without cease, and it's longer than that. What a dude, and what a Marine. Got that old devil dog there. Hope you're doing well, and I am gonna get off the internet here. My wife is home for the evening, but she brought a pizza, and I'm just holding things up, guys, because I had a hot water heater not working, and now she's gonna go try it. She hasn't had hot water. We've been showering in the cold for weeks. So yeah. All right, you guys, thank you for joining me. Hopefully we'll have a post soon. I'm not going to rush it if I don't have the little software app sorted right / have the gift cards in hand. Aquatic Arts has helped me out. Moonlight's going to help me out. We're still working on a couple more sponsors, plus my own money from those affiliate links that you guys do that help me keep the lights on, the kickback I get, or the free fish that I get from those kind of things. I want to give that back to you. So we're going to give back at least 1,000 or 100,000 pennies, 100,000 subscribers, one for every subscriber, worth of goods back to you guys. And also content will be coming shortly. I really have been making a ton of filming and working on stuff like this. And again, that ADA tank that I'm working on, it's coming along. It's starting to look nice and beautiful. And I've just been kind of keeping it a secret. Had to do a few different iterations of it, but now we're on track. I'm feeling more reassured about it. And I will see you guys on Friday, if not in another video sooner or in a short. I love you all. Take care. Be safe. Take care of your critters, and I will see you soon. Thank you for being awesome and for being a part of this channel, making it what it is. Thank you so much. Ooh, bring lawyers, guns, and money.